And we're going to end the week on a strong note. We got a lot. Let's go. Let's roll. So far in this class, we have met two big European players. They're sort of competing with each other, although they are both subject to papal decree. Now, hopefully, everything I've just said, you're thinking, yep, got it. Know exactly what you're talking about. Move on. If you're not, then catch up. Mommy tomato, daddy tomato, and a baby tomato are going for a walk. They're just rolling along. They're going for a nice little walk. But the baby tomato is slow. So the mommy tomato turns around, steps on the baby tomato, and says, catch up. Hey! Oh, you're all weak. All right. Let's bring in some new players. Let's bring in some other European nations who are going to compete against Spain and Portugal because of their arrogant belief that the Native Americans did not have a viable claim to the lands that they had. These new Europeans will lay claim, ignoring the boots on the ground, so to speak, right? The fact that the native people were there already was irrelevant to these new players. And it starts with England. So that is already the I. I am already I am I am. All right. Ready? I am radiate, I am. All right, again. Ready? This time, join me. Ready? I am radiate, I am. All right. Thank you to the three people who sang with me. Those of you who lipped it, okay.
What's his name?
Are you?
No, I seriously couldn't understand you.
Already. His name is already. His name was Henry VIII.
Oh, thank you.
Henry VIII. Okay. There it is. Henry VIII. That is Henry VIII. Henry VIII does have a boss. Who is Henry VIII's boss? The Pope. Yeah, very good. The Pope. Back then, of course, the primary role of a queen is to produce a son. And Henry's first wife failed to do so, so he had her executed. And his second wife failed to do so, so he had her executed. And third, and to produce him an heir, to produce him a male heir. Now, of course, today, biology enlightens us. We know, guys, it's you. You are the dictator of your children's gender. Two competing little chromosomes there. Which one's going to make it, Mr. X or Mr. Y? That's why you have a girl or a boy. The female has nothing to do with the gender. Guys, it's you. But back then, they didn't know that. So by the time Henry is executing his fourth wife or something, the Pope tells Henry, hey, Henry, maybe you're the problem. And in response, Henry fired the Pope. Right. I mean, picture that. Picture me going down to the principal's office and saying, you know, Shannon, it's not working. So everything's packed up by the end of the day. Again, that would not go well for me. But that's exactly what Henry did. He fired the Pope. Now, I don't mean he literally said you're fired. What he did was, he started his own church and named himself the leader of his new church. He is now Pope of his church. It's called the Church of England, the Anglican Church. And he forced everyone in England to join his church or certain consequences. And those consequences could include death, kicked out, fines, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? He is no longer subject to papal decree. He doesn't have to abide by that annoying treaty that you met yesterday, where the Pope drew a line and said Portugal everything to the right and Spain everything else. He no longer is bound by that. He is not part of the Catholic team. Now, of course, the Pope didn't like that at all, as you can understand. And so over in Europe, there were these religious-based wars. Now, this is not a European history class, so we're not going to study these wars, but it's just kind of interesting that when England broke away, the Catholic nations attempted to thwart that effort. So there are wars going on over here. And that was, by the way, just the first breakaway. How many of you are Lutheran? If you are Lutheran or Protestant, if you are a Protestant, you are part of a group of people that broke away from the Catholic Church shortly after the Anglicans broke away. That's this purplish color up here, Lutheran, Calvinists. These are Protestant nations. They broke away. Remember when I told you, was it yesterday or the day before, that when Columbus sailed that way, that was the beginning of the end of the Pope seen as unquestioned earthly leader. Does that sound familiar? And now you know why. Nations started seeing they should be of primary import, not this Catholic Church thing, that England should look out for England. Spain should look out for Spain. No longer we're doing this on behalf of the Catholic Church. No. Okay, so now England's a player. They're a thing now. Okay, so England's going to start becoming more exploratory and a little bit more aggressive. So they're going to send ships out. Now I want you to picture that you are a young male in Europe. Why would you get on that boat that's going across the Atlantic? Why would you get on that boat?
To get away from the guy. From
Please.
Henry.
Who would want to get away from King Henry? In England.
People who might go around the world.
Very good. What if you were Catholic and you actually believed that Catholic was the right way to go? You might get on that boat to escape persecution. Very good. Anybody else? Why else would you get on that boat?
Opportunity.
Yeah, very good. Fame and fortune, right? Or you're bored. Okay. Have any of you ever heard of this thing called primogeniture? I'm fairly certain that you know what it is. I'm just wondering if any of you know what it is. I bet you know. In Europe, if you were the firstborn male, what? You inherit. That's right. You are the inheritor of your father's wealth. What if you're number two? Sucks to be you. There's a boat. Go make your wealth over there. Okay? So people who are not firstborn. Perhaps this is the biggest reason of all. And then, so we've identified this one. Thank you. And we just talked about this one. Companies. Businesses who wanted to grow. Remember? Businesses that wanted to grow. Three things. Cotton,
Sugar,
tobacco. Very good. Okay. Well, they're going to grow it over there. They need people to work. So they send them over. So there were people who left Europe and didn't pay a dime out of their own pocket. They were paid for by businesses who wanted to grow sugar and then eventually cotton and tobacco. So you've got a religious reason and a couple economic reasons up there, right? Any questions there? Let's rock. All right, is anyone still ready? Which is fine. I can go?
Yeah.
Just feast your eyes on that picture for a minute. I want you to really, really try and see what's going on here. So you've noticed the baby being grilled on the fire.
That guy's eating another hand.
Yeah, in his left hand, he's got a head. That's probably dessert. And in his right hand, he's got an arm,
It's a giant.
which appears to be something he's planning on eating.
Actually, they're.
Yeah, it's a photograph from way back then.
No, it's a painting.
No, it's a
There are large anchors, which appear to be torture devices. This guy seems to be selling body parts.
I mean, who would think of something drunk?
Why?
Okay.
I have a feeling it's a-
Now, allow me to preface this. Were the Spanish cruel to the natives that they conquered? By and large, the answer is yes. But is it possible that the Spanish weren't that bad? Did they kill Native Americans? Yes. But remember, the number one killer of Native Americans was disease, right? It was out of the span. They didn't know. It probably wasn't this bad. And that's the point I'm trying to make. And that is that the Spanish treatment of the Native Americans was not as bad as what I think might be in some of your heads, was that they just mowed them down left and right. Well, remember, Cortez didn't overthrow the Aztec. Cortez overthrew the Aztec hierarchy. There were many Aztec who were delighted that this group that were engaging in those, human sacrifices. Remember, not all Aztec engaged in human sacrifice. The hierarchy was engaging in that behavior. And so most Aztec were not all that upset about Cortez's actions. Now, later on, when Cortez, when they wiped out by smallpox, the natives, I think, were kind of like, well, this sucks. But they weren't necessarily all that upset that this government was removed. Okay. Well then, where does this picture come from? Because this picture is that old. This picture is hundreds of years old. Who would want to make the Spanish out to look like this? Okay, you're on the right track.
French, British.
Okay, there's no such thing as British yet, but it's the English. This is an English portrayal. Now, you have a question?
No.
Really? You said British, and I said, no, English. And you're fine? You're fine. Is it?
No, they're not.
Okay. Please. So he said something, and I want to make sure that, please notice that I'm saying the word English. I'm not saying British. I am saying English. They're not the same. They are not. Oh, very good. You just hold on to that question. But for now, I'm pointing out to you that this red thing is sending out explorations. Later on, this thing will join with that thing and part of that thing to become Britain. But it doesn't happen yet. This is England. It'll become Britain. Okay. So the English spread rumors that the Spanish were this, and in order to create a sense of resentment from native peoples towards the Spanish. I'm just suggesting that the Spanish were probably not this bad, generally. Now, did the Spanish engage in awful behaviors? Yes. But if this were true, then there's no way that number 2 could have been true, and number 2 was true. So that means this couldn't have been true. Number 2 up here is the Spanish approach to the peoples that lived here already. The Spanish did not remove the natives as they encroached on their land. They intermarried. They mixed. How can that be true of a people that treats people like this? You wouldn't marry them. You wouldn't have kids with them if this is how you view them. The Spanish tried to convert the natives. Why would you bother converting people that you're planning on carving up into parts? That doesn't make sense. So the Spanish tried to convert the natives to Catholicism, married with them, intermixed with them, taught them, recognized that they were people, maybe? But that's probably pretty good, yeah. If you didn't comply then yeah. Okay, that's good. Okay. I'm going to say that might have happened sometimes. Yeah, I think that's probably true. I'm just suggesting to you that the Spanish viewed the natives differently than when the English would come along, because I'm telling you that when the English become a playa and they start settling the east coast of what is today the United States, you think they intermixed with the natives? Heck no. Get out. As we encroach, you retreat. We take, you move. This is the English approach. We move in, you move out. Whereas the Spanish were just sort of like, we're here, Stay if you want, but we're the ones that are going to dictate what's happening here, which is a slightly different approach. And I'm not suggesting one's better than the other. It is different, though. The English approach was to make this England. We are going to make this England. Spanish approach was, well, join us. Based on our rules, but join us. Okay, any questions here? The last thing is we're going to meet a guy. His name is Bartholomew de las Casas. He traveled with Columbus. He was on those expeditions. He was a priest, and he saw how the Spanish treated the natives, and he was highly critical of it. He said, "These are people. These are God's children. How can we be enslaving them? You can't do this stuff." He was highly critical, and again, I would suggest to you that that means that the Spanish were not as cruel as it seems. If they were this cruel, then why would this guy be speaking out against? This guy's a Spanish guy speaking out against. So I'm saying there were some Spanish who said we should be treating these people that we're dealing with more humanely. That seems to suggest that the Spanish were a little bit more humane than this. So English exaggeration, the fact that the Spanish intermarried, became culturally entwined, and open criticism of some Spanish practices might suggest to you that the Spanish were not as cruel as maybe you thought. Are you walking in or not?
I'm not sure.
This is CIS. Bye-bye. Okay, any questions? He's about an hour early.
Oh my God.
Okay, so let's meet some of the explorers from England who would travel on behalf of England. So his name was John Cabot. Now, the fascinating thing about John Cabot, that's not his name. His name was Johann Caboto. But the English, wow. But the English, this is actually common, the English had trouble pronouncing his name, so they just say, your name is John. Later on in this class, we'll study one of the wars, King Philip's War. King Philip's was not a king named Philip. He was an Indian named Metacomet. But the English couldn't say Metacomet, so they called him Philip. I don't know. Anyway, the reason you and I, part of the reason you and I are sitting here right now speaking English is because of that guy. This is the guy that stuck the flagpole in. By the way, when I say stuck the flagpole in, I'm being metaphoric. I don't literally mean that he actually stuck a flagpole in and then everyone else said, darn. That it's a visual. I don't mean it. Yeah. He's the one that gets the ball rolling. He's the one that gets the English to start claiming parts of what we today call the United States, and then from there extends. But he's the one that gets it rolling. Another player is the French. The French are going to start becoming a player. Have any of you been to this thing called Canada? It's just north of here. Canada, also pronounced Canada. Okay. Quebec. You were in Quebec?
Yeah.
Did you notice? That's right. They
Yeah.
speak French.
Yeah.
And now you know why. Because the French started laying claim. More this guy than this guy. This is the guy who actually went into the river that feeds into the Great Lakes. Did you know that you and I are right next to 1/5 of the world's fresh water? 1/5. That means the rest of the world has to share the other 4/5. We are next to the largest single body of fresh water on Earth, the Great Lakes. Okay, and they're actually kind of a miracle of geography, right? Try and find another spot on Earth where you have a port taking international boats, and that port is in the middle of the continent. You and I call that thing Duluth. It's in the middle of North America. It's in the middle. And it's an international water port. That's weird. And it's because of the Great Lakes. Okay? It is because of a guy by the name of Jacques Cartier, who explored the Great Lakes region and claimed parts of those chunks of land for France. Okay? questions there? The end. Now, allow me to just go back for a second and point this out. How many of you, as I was talking about this, were thinking, this looks like evidence that I could use to refute the claim of Zinn that the Spanish were cruel? And if you were, awesome. And if you weren't, you have to start seeing things this way. You should be asking yourself on each slide, is this something I could use in my Blue Book essay to prove one thing or another? That to support Zinn's claim that Columbus was awful, and then we haven't gotten Schweiger and Allen yet, but I imagine you could probably guess that if Zinn says Columbus was awful, guess what Schweiger and Allen are going to say about it? And, well, I don't know if he's great, but he's not awful, right? If someone says you're awful and I say she's not awful, does that mean I think you're great? No, it just means I don't think you're awful. That doesn't necessarily think, you might be just average. Okay, let's move on. Okay, any questions about what I just said? Go ahead.
So on the last slide, it's just like what we were talking about. Why do you think their approaches were so different?
Yeah, that's a good question. The English were pretty full of themselves. Now, I just made a stereotype. I don't mean every single English person was full of themselves, but the English will start on an adventure starting here, which will eventually lead to England controlling about 1/4 of Earth. They'll become really good at it. And it's because of their true belief that they were superior. And if we're superior to you, why would we mix with you? How's that? Does that answer your question? Okay. Anybody else? Let's shift gears. I am going to hand out to you yes?
Can you put up the slide before this, please?
Oh, sure. This one?
Yeah.
I'm handing out to you 2 pieces of paper. Meanwhile, actually what I'll do is I'll have you retrieve it yourself. So don't get up yet, but you will be retrieving half sheet of paper, full sheet of paper, and then you need 5 different colored highlighters. Okay, I'll just put them like this. If you have your own highlighters, that would be great. Yeah.
No other colors? Yeah, no, grab that.
It's all good.
You can even ask her. I got peanuts for
I said
it
okay.
and a Pepsi.
Okay, Ethan, we have a problem.
Use your pencil, squiggly underline circle.
Okay. Ethan, we have a problem.
If you don't have 5 different colored highlighters, you'll be fine. I'm just asking you to differentiate a number of different ways. And there are other things. You could circle instead of highlight. You could underline. You could squiggly underline. You could double underline. First thing I want you to do is take a look at this half sheet and skip number 1, but starting with numbers 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, starting with 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, highlight each one a different color or mark it a different way. So maybe number 2 for you will be green, and number 3 for you will be yellow, and number 3, 4 will be orange, or whatever. Just highlight it a different way for each number. But skip number 1.
Yeah.
Skip number 1. I did say that. Yes. Well, if you did number 1, just make number 1 the same as number 6, and then don't bother with number 1. Yep. And yeah, feel free to share. Some people are lucky enough they got all 5 colored markers. Selfish. Okay. So what I have for you here is a paragraph, a correctly written paragraph, how paragraphs need to be written for me, for this class, for Blue Book essays. A correctly written paragraph will have a claim sentence or a topic sentence. This is where you point out that something is true. For example, Zinn claims that Columbus was bad. There, that's a claim. The next part, number 2, is what I call document evidence. And listen, the definition is document evidence is something you found, text you found that proves number 1 is true. So I said Zinn claimed that Columbus was bad. Number 2, prove it. Don't prove that Columbus was bad. Prove that Zinn said he was bad. Now, where's the proof? Where's the proof that, how do I know Zinn thought Columbus was bad? The article, right? The documents that we have. We got document 1. We haven't gotten to document 2, but believe me, document 2 makes, in fact, let's get this out. Let's take a look at this, okay? I'm making your life even more confusing. Right, document 1 is arguing Columbus was cruel. And then if you look at document 2, I'll just quickly read through it. Again, this is Zinn talking about Columbus. Are we all with me? I don't want to get ahead of you here. So here's the second document. Columbus wrote, again, this is Zinn talking. Columbus wrote, as soon as I arrived in the Indies, now that's the Caribbean Indies, on the first island which I found, I took some of the natives by force in order that they might learn and might give me information of whatever there is in these parts. And then Zinn goes on. The information that Columbus wanted most was, where's the gold? What a great guy. Or Zinn's conclusion, no, not a great guy. Greedy, cruel, these are words that you could be using, okay? So we know Zinn thought Columbus was cruel, and we know he thought Columbus was greedy. Look again at number 2. It says document evidence. And again, listen to my definition. Document evidence proves that your topic sentence is true. My topic sentence was, Zinn thought Columbus was bad. Document evidence is used to prove that that's what Zinn thought. Not whether it's true or not. You are not proving with document evidence that Columbus was bad. Am I making this clear? Document evidence is used to prove that that's what Zinn thought. Okay. Now look at number 3. Now there's something called historical evidence. Historical evidence is used to prove that the document evidence is true, or at least have some validity. So look at that. Number 3 proves number 2 is true. Number 2 proves number 1 is true. The historical evidence proves that the document evidence is true. The document evidence proves that this is what the historian thought. 3 proves 2, 2 proves 1. It's very logical. Okay? Where are you going to get the historical evidence? Where are you going to get evidence that Columbus was cruel? What? Internet, textbook, other documents that you aren't directly using for document evidence. Cheat sheet, little piece of information that will help you. If you're not using a document for document evidence, feel free to use it for historical evidence. and it's everywhere. Historical evidence is everywhere in here. It's just that if you're going to use it for document evidence, you can't use it for historical evidence. Okay? Okay, great. Moving on. It now says number 4, analysis. And it says your own perspective. It's your own 2 cents. You're throwing your own opinion in there. Judgment. You're throwing your opinion here. Okay? That's what analysis is. Number 5 is refuting. You say, however, this is wrong. Let's go back to my verbal paragraph, right? I said, Zinn believed Columbus was bad. I'm going to tweak that just a hint. Zinn mistakenly believed that Columbus was bad. Now, what do you know about, what does Zinn believe? And what do I think? That Zinn's wrong. That Zinn's wrong. Okay? All right. So, if that's my topic sentence, number 2 proves number 1. I still have to prove that Zinn thought he was bad. Number 3 proves number 2. I still need evidence that suggests that Columbus may have been bad. And then I'm going to say, but this is wrong. It's wrong. And now I have to prove it. I need some sort of historical evidence to show Columbus was misunderstood. Columbus was a victim of his time period. It's hard to criticize people 1,000 years ago for being racist when that's what they really believed. It's arrogant sometimes of us today to look back at those people and say, what was wrong with those people? Why didn't they know the size of the earth? And they thought the sun was what? And they thought the moon was cheese? What's wrong with it? Well, yeah, they didn't have the understanding that we have today. So sometimes it's sort of arrogant for us to be critical of attitudes 1,000 years ago. Not all the time. I mean, De Los Casas was critical of Columbus. Okay, so we can't always make that conclusion, but basically you prove them wrong. And then finally, there's something called synthesis, number 6. Synthesis is when you say, gee, this is a whole lot like another situation. And we're going to worry about that later. Okay? Your challenge, should you accept to do the challenge, and you all do, is to highlight this paragraph according to that cheat sheet. Skip the topic sentence. The topic sentence is the first sentence. Okay? Go. Highlight the rest according to this. Don't worry if you're wrong. Who cares? Be fearless of mistakes. If you and your friend want to sort of work together on it, awesome.
Yeah. It's gonna be the second one.
I just got a batch of highlighters here. Is anyone short some colors? I got a green and a pink and an orange and a yellow.
Yeah, it's giving us the actual setting, saying here on page 5, set your setting and source.
So like this sentence can be too bright in the parentheses. It's everything from 5 until however.
Yeah. Just having a look for
Describing the scene.
So as you're doing this, allow me to just throw out 2 things that might help you a bit. One, it isn't an accident that I put this in the order it was, this little half sheet. That's not a coincidence. And then number 2, some of the things that you might be thinking, all right, is it historical evidence or is it analysis? Sometimes those two things blend, right? They might be both, and I'm fairly forgiving of that. So 3 and 4 sort of blend, okay?
The next sentence is fine.
I think that whole sentence though is, so number 2.
We're excited.
Yeah, for Mark.
Can there be a second
Like that's what-
refuting in this? Can there be like two, like there's supposed to be considered refute here?
I think that's exactly what that is. I think that is
I
refuted
get why it is,
claim.
isn't it?
Yeah, so I would say that is still
I would
pink.
change it to beach, because like, that's like saying native marriage. Or like, maybe in the.
I'll give you 1 more minute here.
That's why, I don't know.
Analysis? Is there any judgment on the part of the writer of this paragraph? Do you see anything that suggests that it's not from Mathau, but it's from the writer of the paragraph? Yeah, we're gonna go.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Don't worry about that synthesis one. That's for later. All right. Let's take a shot here. So I'll just read it sentence for sentence, and then you tell me what you think I should have done there. So sentence 1, some people argue that Pepper's atmosphere makes it a great restaurant, but Pepper's atmosphere leaves a lot to be desired. What is that? It's a claim, right? It's the topic sentence. You know that I am about to prove that some people think Pepper's atmosphere is awesome, but I don't. I don't think so. Okay. By the way, what that tells me, the grader, I'm the grader, is I better be reading 2 pieces of historical evidence. 2. One that proves that it appears that Pepper's has a pretty good atmosphere, and then one that says, but it doesn't. Okay? All right. Keeping going. Walter Mathau, a food critic who works for the St. Paul Pioneer Press, points out that the decor of Pepper's is pleasant and inviting. What'd you do with that one?
Reference. Those reference.
What does that mean? Oh, yeah, reference to document evidence. Yeah, exactly. It's the second one. Yep. I'll keep going. Mathau argues that the location of the restaurant puts anyone in close range of all that the Twin Cities might have to offer. Mathau, page 5. What is that? It's still document evidence. It is still document evidence. I'm gonna keep reading here, but I have a question. Where's the quote?
Yeah, where is it?
Where's the quote? And now I'm about to enlighten you about how you write Blue Book essays. Don't quote. What a colossal waste of time. I know what the documents say. Skip it. You don't quote in Blue Book essays. What a colossal waste of time to take words that are there and to put them here. Why? Skip it. Just paraphrase. Listen, everyone. Document evidence is you paraphrasing the document. It is not the document itself. That's a waste of time. Keep going. The decor of Pepper's is subtle. I'll keep going. Each booth has a painting of an Italian scene, whether it's the Duomo in Florence or the spires of St. Peter's in Rome. Soft music plays in the background, and the lighting is just dim enough to soften the edges of a long day. I'll keep going. The location, Woodbury, does put Pepper's in the general vicinity of major events in the metro area, and I'll stop there. What do people do with that set of sentences? Analysis, and I would also suggest historical evidence. There is actual truth. I mean, there are booths with Italian paintings. That's not analysis, that's historical evidence. I have proven why some people think that there might be some validity to the claim. But there's also some analysis here. The writer of the paragraph is slipping in his or her opinion. The decor is subtle. That's an opinion. That's analysis. That's not a fact. People don't walk in here and say subtle, right? You don't have an equation that goes like this. 2 + 2 is 4. But Italian paintings plus soft music does not equal subtle. It is not an equation. That means this is analysis. If it's something you can prove, it's historical evidence. If it is something that you were sticking your judgment in, it's analysis. Sorry. I don't know. And now the magic word, however. Yeah, now I'm refuting it. Now I am proving that it's wrong, so I better be reading about another piece of evidence. Refuting, question, do so with historical evidence. Let's read. However, Mathau is wrong to suggest that Pepper's atmosphere and location makes it an ideal restaurant. Keep going. If a family were in Los Angeles for a Disney World vacation, that family would be silly to go to a suburb to eat at a restaurant when there are plenty of good choices right next to the theme park. Isn't that a good point? I mean, I'm saying, like, look, if you're in Disney World, you wouldn't drive an hour out to eat at a restaurant so that you could drive back to Disney World. You'd stay in Disney World. Now, is Disney World the Twin Cities? No. No, but it got you to think about it, didn't it? That's synthesis. Synthesis is where you say, oh, you don't understand this argument? Well, do you understand this argument? Do you understand this argument? Do you understand the Disney World one? Oh, you do? Now you get the Twin Cities one. That's synthesis. And we will work with synthesis more later. Okay, I promise. Let's keep going. Trying to argue that Woodbury is an ideal location ignores the fact that there are other restaurant choices much, much closer to the Twin Cities venues, including downtown venues. That is historical evidence used to refute. I think what would have made this paragraph even better is give me a specific restaurant. Like what? But guess what the next paragraph is going to be? That specific restaurant, right? The other restaurant, Amante, which is located in downtown Minneapolis. Speaking of the Twins, did you see that game? Oh my God. Maybe the best game of the year. You didn't see it?
I saw the score.
Oh my God. Tying runs round in third. Rosario throws him out at home. Game over. It was sweet. Plus the Packers won, so that's okay. Documents out. Let's cover 2 more documents. We're not done. Let's go. Let's attack 2 more documents. Good.
I have a tri-conflict.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah.
Oh, I had one of those. That solved it. But...
I'm still a fan of yours, but try. Yeah, eventually will you bring highlighters back? Doesn't have to be now. But we now know, according to document 1, that Zinn had the opinion that Columbus was cruel. We now know from document 2 that Zinn believed that Columbus was greedy. Let's see what we learned from document 3. I'm gonna skip down I'm just gonna read document 3 here. Columbus would never have made it to Asia, which was thousands of miles farther away than he had calculated, imagining a smaller world. He would have been doomed by that great expanse of sea, but he was lucky. 1/4 of the way, he came upon unknown, uncharted land. Okay? Let's stop there. Was Columbus a great sailor? He's an idiot. He's an idiot who got lucky. Yes, he discovered that land, but he had nowhere near enough food. His ships were not designed to go across the Atlantic, and he just happened to hit upon land. That's not skill. That's luck. The guy was lucky. He was an idiot, according to Zinn. Let's keep going at the bottom. I'll sum up what it basically says at the bottom, okay? Whoever saw land was given an award. Whoever was the first to see land was given a financial award. And Columbus was the one that got to decide who won the award. And guess who Columbus picked to win the award? Columbus. Columbus chose Columbus as the winner of the award. The guy was greedy. He was greedy. And by the way, it explains how there was actually this other guy who said, land, I see land. And you know what Columbus said to him? Oh, yeah, I saw that last night. Sure you did. Sure you did, you liar. Okay. So Columbus the cruel, Columbus the greedy, Columbus the idiot.
How much it says 10,000?
That's a good question. A lot. That's a lot of money. In today's money, I have no idea, but it was a lot. That's a significant amount. Okay. The king and queen, Isabella. Yeah. Okay. So the good news for you is you only have to pick one. You only have to pick one of these. Which one do you want to go with? Columbus the cruel, Columbus the moron, Columbus the greedy? Which one of Zinn's claims do you want to go with? And that's only if you want Columbus as your topic. Remember, there are 3 and you pick 2. Maybe you don't like Columbus, the topic. Go with 2 others. It's fine. Okay. Okay. If I were to ask you right now what you think of Columbus, I have a feeling that most of you would say, I don't like him very much. Right? And this is true. Do you know this is true? And read this, verify it, read it in your book, read it on Google. But when Columbus set himself up as king of the areas under his control, he ruled Cuba, Hispaniola, he would order the native peoples to find him a certain amount of gold. They had a quota once a month. And if they did not bring him enough gold, you get to choose which limb I'm going to cut off. Now, after 1 limb, after 2, after 4, they threw you in a pool with a life jacket and called you Bob. That's all. It's true. They cut off limbs. Okay? I mean, that's slightly cruel, isn't it? Uh-huh. Yeah, let's go with cruel. Okay. Let's read a Schweikert and Allen conclusion. Okay, so to Zinn, he's cruel, he's greedy, he's a moron. Schweikert and Allen are going to paint a different picture, and it is truly up to you which one is the more compelling argument. So now I'm looking at document 4. This is from Schweikert and Allen. Here we go. The prize for which the Portuguese explorers had risked so much now seems small in comparison to that discovered by the rivals, the Spanish, under the bold seamanship of Christopher Columbus, a man the King of Portugal had once refused to fund. Christopher Columbus, bold seaman. Think about that. Think about the fact that Columbus had the guts to go that way. Nobody else did. Sure, after Columbus, they said, oh, yeah, I would have done that. Sure, you would have. But it was Chris who did it. He did it. Right? That's a leader. Next paragraph. Columbus embodied the best of the new generation of navigators, resilient, courageous, confident. To be sure, Columbus wanted glory, and motivation born of desperation fueled his vision. Did he want to become rich? Uh-huh. And so does Aaron Rodgers. What's wrong with wanting to become rich? Isn't that the American... Who in here is like, I don't? They're rich. Okay, does the guy want to be rich? Yeah. So? What's wrong with that? Ambitious, bold, a leader, a visionary. He went where no one else went. That's a trailblazer. Columbus, the trailblazer. Now, how are you going to prove that? Prove to me, I mean this. Prove to me that Columbus was a trailblazer. He went where no one else went. This seems to me like an obvious answer. Yeah, didn't he cross the Atlantic first? I mean, that's true. He did. He crossed the Atlantic first. Now, there's historical evidence to suggest, well, actually, it was the Vikings because they made it to Iceland and then Greenland and then Canada. Okay, fine. You went around the periphery. Columbus went that way. He went straight across, man. Okay. Good. Any questions? We did a lot. I'll allow you to relax for the last 3 minutes. Can I have my highlighters back? Thank you. No. Unless you and I want to compete
Yeah, on the map?
on the map.
I do.
All right, name the country.
Greece.
Greece?
Mm-hmm.
You even know where Greece is?
Yeah, I do.
Point it out.
Where's Greece?
You actually want me to?
I know where Greece is. I don't believe you know where Greece is.
I know where Greece
Point
is.
that out.
It's over here.
Okay. I guess she does. It's a little
She's
country.
pointed at, like, all the.
Why don't we do like Russia or something?
Because that's too easy.
All right. I bet you missed.
Brazil, Brazil.
I accept
That's a
Brazil.
big one.
All right, Brazil. Brazil.
Oof.
I hit Mexico.
Wait, what is the point of this?
You try and get it on the country. Who was closer?
I'm not sure who won that one. All right, pick a different one.
China.
Now you go first this time.
Okay, Australia.
Australia. All right.
Ooh.
That was
All
really
right.
off.
You hit Megan Plurd winning the state championship in the high jump. I have to win.
Sure.
I win?
Yeah, you got it.
Wait, can I try Potter?
Classroom? Yes. Yeah.
What do you do?
I sent it.
You trying to point that
It's
with,
really
Press the
hard.
button.
Does it matter what I
Yes, I
use?
emailed you.
No.
Use your dominant eye.
No, I.
Do you know what your dominant eye is?
Yeah, I know what my dominant eye. Which one is it though?
Yeah, I'll just,
What do I point at?
NJM.
I
pick
don't
a country.
know.
Pick a
Point it at Australia.
Okay.
5.
Wait, can I hold it with 2 hands?
Uh-huh.
What?
Yeah, that.
What were you trying to get?
Australia.
You asked too many questions.
It wasn't that bad.
Yeah, bye.